agreed to make all the necessary steps to implement ECOP. Joint venture partners were urged to start awarding engineering, procurement and construction contracts. And lastly, the United Republic of Tanzania was advised to finalize the signing of the host government agreement and related agreements between the government and the ECOP company. The signing of several agreements pertaining to the East African crude oil pipeline here in Entebbe sets the ball rolling towards the production phase of oil and gas. Dennis Igoa for UBC News at State House.
Definitely a milestone for all stakeholders who have been watching out for the oil and gas sector. Let's hope all goes well and we can read big. In other news, government has called for calmness from the Muslim community in regards to the request for revision of the curfew hours as they head for the holy month of Ramadan. Now, according to the Minister for Information, Communication and National Guidance, Judith Nabakoba, the National COVID-19 Task Force is yet to advise Cabinet on the matter. And these are the details.
Should the moon be
Depending on when the moon will be sighted, Muslims across the country will this week embark on observing fasting, one of the 5 pillars of the Islam.
Our Muslim brothers and sisters will start their 40 days fasting, leading to Eid al-Fitr. We wish you all the blessings that come with this time.
The Muslims are, however, asking government to lift the 9 p.m. curfew that might limit their participation in Taraweeh night prayers.
So we haven't sat as government, but we believe that since a request was put before government, definitely it will come through the National Task Force and finally Cabinet. Probably a resolution will be made to that effect.
As a fulfillment of one of the pillars of the Muslim faith, the holy month of Ramadan across the world is either expected to begin this Monday, 12th April, or Tuesday, 13th April, 2021. The Minister for ICT, Judith Nabakoba, while addressing media in Kampala, continued drumming up Ugandans not to lower the guard against COVID-19 campaign, although there is vaccination going on. The minister also invites members of the public to support the vaccination process.
Let us support those with fears about the vaccine by encouraging them to visit health workers for counseling and guidance. The vaccine is our hope towards the end of COVID-19. It will also help us to resume some of the sectors that are still under restrictions. So it is very important that we embrace it and we go for the vaccination. It is very, very important. And I want to remind everyone that COVID still exists. So let us try to reduce the effects of COVID, but also reduce the spreading of the virus by social distancing, wearing our masks, and also washing our hands with soap and water all the time.
Senior 6 candidates are also set to write the 2020 Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education final exams this Monday, 12th April. The minister wishes all Senior 6 candidates success.
All those who neglect their duty in reporting or preventing malpractices will also be arrested and charged in the courts of law. Punishment for offences under the exam malpractices have been increased from 6 months to 5 years. All payment of a fine of 5 million Ugandan shillings, all both. So it is important that people who are out there, you know what may befall of you if you fall victims.
Over 98,393 candidates from 2,339 examination centers will be writing the 2020 A-level final exams starting Monday, 12th April 2021. Robert Onyango, UBC News, Kampala.
And then in the same regard, the 2020 Senior 6 candidates begin their exams this Monday. At least 98,393 candidates are to sit their advanced level certificate examinations at 2,339 centers countrywide. The Manager of Corporate Affairs at Uganda National Examinations Board, Jennifer Kalule Musamba, says that all is set and students begin with mathematics and history.
Yes, this morning we dispatched off, we've managed to dispatch off all our trucks taking the examination papers to various stations in the various districts. So they are still traveling, but we do hope that they will get there in time to ensure that every candidate is able to access the examination paper by tomorrow morning. Our candidates will be doing mathematics in the morning as well as history in the morning. So all is set. All our field personnel have been dispatched. The entire week we've been working with them, briefing various sections of the field personnel, those who are going to help us in the management, the scouts, the supervisors, the monitors, and today the distributors were all dispatched to ensure that the papers get to the field in time. So tomorrow will be the first day when the candidates, near 6 candidates, will be writing the examinations. We are also calling upon the heads of centers to ensure that we do observe the SOPs as given to us by the Ministry of Education and Sports. We want to ensure that we have hand-washing facilities for all the candidates. Let's ensure that all the candidates wear their masks, and everybody who gets into the school facility should actually wear their mask. So because coronavirus is still there, so we've been advised to ensure that we observe the SOPs. And this time round, we are conducting this examination under the new UNEP Act 2021, which is more stringent. The board is going to be very harsh on anybody who intends to deal in examination malpractice. We want to discourage the candidates. Do not allow to be misled by anybody who will want to tell you they are going to give you external assistance or get involved in impersonation, or they want to say they are going to give you some paper or something like that. I can assure you nobody can get access to a NAB paper before. There's no such a thing like as a leakage. So whatever they'll be giving you is going to be a leakage. Yet at the same time, if you're found to have access, to have had prior knowledge of an examination paper before its official release, you will be held culpable.
Furthermore, the first Deputy Prime Minister, General Moses Ali, has recommended higher institutions of learning to always review works of councils every year for transparent services. He was officiating and launching the University Council of Islamic University in Uganda.
Service delivery at Islamic University in Uganda, the university has appointed a new council and filled vacant positions. The first Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Leader of Government Businesses, General Moses Ali, urged them to begin from where the outgoing council ended.
We have been reporting 1 year's work to the council, kind of reporting what had happened.
Director Professor Ismail Simbajagenda says despite COVID-19 pandemic, there have been some achievements registered by the institution.
Especially for IU, we went through a very, very tough time last year when we could not have enough money to pay our staff enough of their salaries. But I'm happy to note that ever since the government started allowing us to open slowly, right now, for the first time 2 months ago, we were able to pay our staff full salaries, February and March. We have also followed government directives to allowing our students in a staggered manner, and so we are back in business.
Professor Jagenda adds that to recognize work done by the late Chirunda Chivejinja, who was a member of the council, the university has decided to name one of the buildings after him.
Today, the council accepted the proposal of the executive board to name one of the major buildings in IUIU after him because of his dedicated service. The executive board also recommended that our previous rector, Dr. Ahmad Kawesa Sengendo, who had spent half of his life at IUIU from the age of 29 to 60, and was rector for 15 years.
A former Northern Youth Member of Parliament is also among the council member who tells where to start from.
Improving the infrastructure of our campuses in terms of renovations, in terms of coming up with new buildings, like the hostels, lecture rooms, toilet facilities, so as to make the university attractive and competitive compared to the rest of the universities in the country and the region.
The council consists of 15 members, including His Royal Highness Al-Hajj Shehu Chindo Yamusa III from Nigeria. Story compiled by Andrew Sabira for UBC News.
Now, local government units with proposals to alter boundaries and create new ones will have to wait until the financial year 2025-2026. What informed this decision is what Minister for Local Government Raphael Majezi explains. Now, he says it has been a bearing on the budget implications, which could be a strain on government.
Is the Honorable Majezi in order to bring Kasese?
The proposals have been massive.
Within 15 days, we'll come back about the issues of Tororo.
Some of them remain on the shelves of local government ministry.
You must make sure that Sigulu district is among the list.
Some have been marred by controversies leading to unending disputes.
We don't need this district.
The current MP for municipality is being selfish, really.
Those that have reached a consensus level have had their new local government units created.
On behalf of the people of our districts, I vote yes.
The creation of such new districts is in line with Section 7 of the Local Government Act. Procedures and powers for local councils to alter boundaries and propose the creation of new local government and administrative units are detailed in this act. Unfortunately, time has come when continuous creation of these units has to come to a halt.
Government has taken a decision that we have to first operationalize these local governments which have already been created and whose leadership has already been elected.
As of today, Uganda is home to 146 higher local government units, including 135 districts, 10 cities, and 1 capital city. The other lower administrative units include 31 municipalities, 2,184 sub-counties, 10,595 parishes, 70,626 villages, 580 town councils, 89 municipal, and 20 city divisions.
It is our position as government, I believe it is justified, that if we still have over 700 sub-counties and town councils which have not yet been functionalized, then how do you come to the minister and say, we want more? Let's first operationalize those which we have, make sure that they deliver the services that you require. Then, as time goes by, we'll certainly open the window for those who deserve more units.
Where does this decision leave areas like Namaingo and Kasese, among others, whose demands for new districts have been pending for long? What about the new cities that were programmed to become effective in clusters? These are quite pertinent questions whose answers are just available here.
They should not lose hope. We're still here. We still have factors you cannot ignore, which I've pointed out. Factors of geography. People are telling you, for example, let me give you a live example. Take the Kalangala district. At the time it was split from Masaka, the population was very small. There were only 16,000. So if we are going to by that particular factor alone of population, Kalangala would not have been created as a district. But because of the geography, it being an island area, the distance on the water to access services at the district in Masaka, government took a decision and agreed with the request of the people of Sese Islands to give them a district. Some people thought it was wrong at that time. We've been proved right.
As for Tororo, there are two proposals of whether to make it a city or create a new district. The decision of government will be based on the resolution of the district and municipal councils.
When you say we create Tororo City, the council will have to present a proposal properly detailed. Are you talking of the entire Tororo district as it is now being created as a city? The same as we've done for Nakasongola, the same way we are doing for Wakiso.
Whereas some points of view do not agree with district creation as a catalyst for improved service delivery, local government minister Raphael Majezi thinks otherwise.
You cannot deny people services simply because there is corruption, there is inefficiency in one district or another. There are some which are doing pretty well.
When I was Minister for Local Government, that's when there was quest for increasing the number of districts. And I was convinced that Uganda's problem was not a few districts, but too many administrative structures which were expensive and ineffective.
I would not entertain a debate which says creating new districts is useless. I hear the arguments of corruption, that there is corruption in some districts. Corruption is a national issue.
As of now, recently created new administrative units have held their elections, both at parliament and local government levels. What now remains is swearing in and embarking on service delivery. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Now, fistula survivors are advised to always respect antenatal visits whenever they get pregnant and liaise with the midwives to avoid the reoccurrence of fistula problems. Health authorities in Soroti are encouraging survivors to be ambassadors in their communities so as to save many mothers suffering from the impact of fistula, mainly in rural areas.
So that when the baby is term or mature, you should use another mode of delivery, which is commonly cesarean.
This is a group of obstetric fistula survivors who received treatment and are now fully healed of the fistula problem. They are being trained in various income-generating skills at Terwode Women Community Hospital in Soroti before they are sent back to the community. The reintegration program entails restoring the survivors' dignity and empowering them both socially and economically to enable them fit in the society. During the training, the survivors are taken through a health talk to understand what the problem is and how to prevent its reoccurrence. The reintegration process also involves training the survivors in income-generating activities that help them start businesses, how to manage them, and they are also advised to join savings and credit groups to enable them learn savings for their own development.
We teach them how to bake. You can do some mandazi by this and this. How can you reduce on the costs based on the materials you use? We also train them how to make briquettes based on the occasions, since charcoal is becoming expensive.
The hospital also provides them with hands-on skills for small-scale income-generating activities at household levels.
They can prevent further occurrence of the obstetric fistula. So they are trained on how it happened and how they can easily control its reoccurrence or happening again. So after what we call the health talk about obstetric fistula.
The survivors also learn skills in tailoring, bending, soap making, art and craft, as well as kitchen gardening to help them grow vegetables to improve their nutrition and also earn income on the surplus.
Their dignity, because this time around they're going to socialize with other community members, and it's going to increase their saving power. Not only increasing their saving power, but also providing them another source of income where they can get substantial loans to help them start other businesses.
Dr. Okadhi Charles Stephen, the District Health Officer Soroti, encourages survivors to be ambassadors of change in their community to support teenage mothers access fistula health services at Terwode Women Community Hospital.
The sufferers of fistula fear to seek services because of shame and so on. But we are saying they'll be ambassadors, they'll go back in their communities, and those women who are still disadvantaged and are being kept away from seeking services, we'll see from them that something can be done about their situation.
But male involvement in the fight against obstetric fistula is now very key to strengthen marriage relationship. Israel Elalu, a reverend in the Community Church of Uganda, Kabera Maido District, says it should be a must call for both parties for counseling. He calls on men to stop engaging in sex with teenage girls to avoid sending them into the problem, as their bonds are always still very weak.
That after fistula operation, yes, this might be a young woman and may still desire to have children, but usually we wouldn't like such a woman to bear down again.
So far, over 40,000 clients have been successfully repaired in Teso sub-region alone in the last 16 years and have been reintegrated back into the community, economically empowered with skills for income-generating activities.
Now, Atonga Media Limited, a private film production company based in Kampala, Uganda, has launched a local TV series called Kampala. Now, the TV series joins a myriad of film productions that were created during the 2020 lockdowns, and I had a chance to attend the launch.
The Kampala TV series brings together various young creatives in an epic format performance with the aim of educating, informing and entertaining both local and international audiences.
You know, it's a story about a boy who came from northern Uganda because people were teaching him in school, telling him about Kampala. So he was tired of being taught about a city that he has never reached. So he came to Kampala. So when he reached Kampala, there were so many things. For him, in his mind, he thought it was a place with milk and honey. But when he reached Kampala, there were so many things, so many changes. He needed to work, he needed to go to school. He became a street kid.
As the movie industry of Uganda begins to blossom, it is becoming more relevant to tell stories that relate to the way Ugandans live.
For me, when I look at the emotional investment that the Ugandan artists have put to bring out their own stories, everybody can identify with, is a plus for me. And this is a springboard of Uganda's movie industry. What you're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. Rest assured, in the next few years, we're going to see quality movies.
This is the reason as to why Atonga Media partnered with the Center for Research in Energy and Energy Conservation to give a platform for these innovations.
So through film, we have the stories told, the technologies exposed to people through feature films and all these other approaches, and then we are able to talk about, increased access. We want to see more people using clean energy in the country and in the region.
Just like many other deluxe movies being released this year, the Kampala TV series was produced during the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown, leaving one to wonder if the film industry in Uganda is lucrative, considering the immense preparations needed to make successful productions.
Yeah, they do get paid. Like I said, at the end of the day, it depends on what production you own. The productions that have, low budgets, so it's all about the talent, the love for what you're doing. But where we are right now, people are being paid.
And people have been doing that. Many filmmakers are now making films, and they're very exciting films. And they've started traveling, they've started crossing borders. So I believe that in 2 to 3 years, Uganda will be a very big hub for film.
The Kampala TV series is scheduled to premiere on UBC TV. Wadulo Arnold, UBC News.
Now, the government has lauded the efforts of the private sector in the advancement of maternal health care to most vulnerable people in Uganda. This followed Plascon Uganda's commitment to the Ministry of Health to support expectant mothers in 5 health centers with 50 million Ugandan shillings worth of maternity kits. The health centers spread across the 5 regions of Uganda were identified through a selection process on the Plascon social media pages during the brand's Paint and Win promotion in the last quarter of 2020. The support will augment the recent efforts in combating maternal and neonatal mortality rates standing at 92 deaths but 100,000 deliveries, according to the annual health sector performance report.
Our maternal mortality ratio is at 336 deaths per 100 live births in the country, and anything that is targeted to reduce that is welcome. So on behalf of the Ministry of Health and on behalf of Kampala District Local Government and all the local governments that are represented here, we appreciate you. Thank you for this support. It is going to take us a long way in saving the lives of mothers, but also the lives of the children, the newly born children, and those children. You talked about the 90. That is for the children under 5. But the perinatal and neonatal mortality is at 27 per 1,000 live births. We need to reduce it to the WHO standard, less than 10. We still have a long way to go. PLASCOM, your contribution is going to play a role. When mothers come and they sleep in our wards, and they will not be bitten by mosquitoes, eventually we shall prevent those deaths. Death for the newly born children, but also for the mothers who have come to deliver in our facilities.
Even after the overthrow of Idi Amin in 1979, Uganda was still not stable. This prompted him to join the 1981 Bush War struggle that ushered in the national resistance movement in 1986. Now, as we delve into which role he played in the 5-year-long struggle, we seek to establish who exactly General Kahinda Otafire is. Here is our personality outlook for the week.
The political situation of the time was not safe for a number of students to pursue their dreams. This made it a priority for him to first stabilize the country, a struggle he was actively engaged in.
Independence for Uganda, for the people of Uganda, was sacrificed at the altar of opportunism.
Hailing from Mitoma district in western Uganda, Major General Kahinda Otafire attended Bubagizi Primary School before Mutolere Primary and later Bushoroza, from where he completed Primary 8.
Then I went to Kitabu Seminary for 1 year, and I disagreed with the people who were teaching me over quite a number of issues. So I was advised to leave the school.
He opted for what he describes as self-education after disagreeing with some of the teachings. But why?
For instance, we were being taught European history. And I found it very interesting that I should be taught about what happened in Europe and not what happened in Africa. There are quite a lot of things I will write about later on that I didn't agree with. Questions of religion. There were many answers, questions unanswered, which I asked because I was in a seminary, and there were quite a lot of things I wanted to know.
He would sit for mature entry examinations, which he passed, and joined Makerere University, from where he pursued political science and public administration. While at Makerere, he was involved in anti-Idi Amin politics, successfully participating in the ouster of the dictator.
Idi Amin at that time was not alone. There were quite a lot of things going wrong, you know, because of what Idi Amin was doing. We were forced to even to look at the greater Africa, and it dwelled upon us that liberating Uganda was not complete, was not enough without liberating Africa.
But when he thought the dictator was gone, the country's stability was still far from being achieved. This is why he had every reason to believe that Uganda's liberation struggle was not yet complete. Hence, the 1981 Bush War struggle that culminated into Obote out of power.
And when the 1979 war ended, the subsequent events clearly showed that the question of liberating Uganda had not been resolved. Quite a lot of things were left undone. You could clearly see that the politics were not going to be stable. So in my mind, I realized we were going to have to fight again.
It was not by choice that the NRA Bush War struggle took long, it was because of the urge to create capacity to lead in the event of taking power.
We had to prepare cadres, we had to prepare this, we had to prepare that, we had to get weapons, we had to get weapons and get sufficient strength, not only take over the state, but also to maintain the state and stabilize the country. And that doesn't take a short time. Because if you had hurried, yes, you can take Kampala, but have you got capacity to control the whole country?
Indeed, with such strategy, the National Resistance Movement took over power in 1986. This marked a new chapter in the political, social and economic spheres of life in Uganda.
Uganda had become a failed state. Uganda was a failed state. So we had to clear this mess and reconstitute the state and bring sanity in government, and we had to include everybody. We decided on a strategy of including everybody who had something to contribute in rebuilding, in the process of rebuilding the state once again.
I, Kahindo Tafire, swear that I would be faithful and bear allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and I'll present.
General Otafire has since served in various ministerial dockets, including local government, internal affairs, regional cooperation, lands, trade, tourism and industry.
I became military assistant to the president, and then I served as I went back to training the army to finish my training. From there I became external security and subsequently Minister for Security.
It was from the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Ministry that he took over East African Community from the late Ali Kirunda Kivejinja.
In advance, you all know all these things.
Here, he is bent on leading East African nations towards an agreed-upon federation for economic development.
Because the federation solves our security problem, solves our defense problem, unites our economies, solves the matters of shortages, shortages and inabilities. Because if there is shortage of maize in Tanzania, in a federation you don't need permission to move maize from Tanzania to cross the borders. If there is then you can plan production.
It is a political and leadership journey that draws back to his days as a youth winger in the Uganda People's Congress. The journey has seen him observe how people in Uganda have been voting over the years.
The voters don't vote for value. They don't vote issues. They vote cousins, they vote money, they vote religion, they vote all sorts of variables which have nothing to do with politics. Then you end up with, sometimes you end up with people who are equal to the job, MPs. Sometimes you end up with councillors in parliament. People who should have remained at LC3 council end up in parliament.
Indeed, it is a journey that has not been a walk in the park, with the challenges registered almost in all spheres. But how has he overcome this? This, among other questions, next episode of General Kahinda Otafire. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Well, there you have it, something to look out for next Sunday in the Personality Outlook. Part 2 of this episode. Let's take a short commercial break. When we return, we'll be back with business.
Should stop you from finishing what's yours. That's why MTN gives you data bundles that don't expire. Download MTN Freedom Bundles using My MTN app and enjoy the freedom to finish your data bundles. MTN.
Today tastes like a new tradition, like an old favorite. Tastes like all hands on deck and all eyes on the prize. Today tastes like a piece of the action, and it never tasted this good.
That's their way of stopping HIV. What about you?
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission. It's better to foster respect instead of fear and pain.
Cause a good school equals a better life.
Raising voices.
Welcome back. You're still watching the UBC News Tonight, broadcasting live from Nile Avenue. Also on Facebook and YouTube under the name tag UBC TV Uganda. It's now time for business. Now, the chairman of Buhaguzi Constituency Mechanics Sacco has been arrested for embezzlement of the Myoga funds. John Paul Mugabi, the suspect, is a resident of Changwali sub-county. He was picked on orders of the Chikure District Resident Commissioner Amlan Tumusime following complaints of missing Sacco funds by the Sacco members. These are the details.
John Paul Mugabi allegedly directed the association treasurer and secretary to withdraw 21 million shillings on the 16th of March 2021 and went on to share the money. Sacco members say Mugabi took 15 million shillings, gave his treasurer 3.6 million shillings, while the secretary got 3 million shillings.
Nyonyenka nkishanisha basente ebiro 20 yuko kwezi kwa kashatu konka bakabihireyo natwara fomu zanjye ndukushaba nazitwara chairman namusha miliyoni 5 ebiyangambira abingambira nyango 5 nimbasa kuzikwa nimbasa kutazikwa akwa ninyenye no bushoboruzi batu ureka batu gamba hati niyo muhandike nimureka kwetongoja kanye mugitwale mutwale baruheyo mu office ya commercial officer siru their office nga yabasako executive era batu signing aone baruheyo tukagihandike kaije kuno
The secretary and treasurer then got the money and shared theirs with the association members. The RDC alleges that Mugabe used the 15 million shillings to buy a new car for his personal use.
Okay. Yes, as you know, as one way of fighting unemployment and creating wealth in people's homesteads, the president came out with this very beautiful program of a Myoga countrywide. And the Kikube district was lucky that among the other districts in Bunyoro, Kikube district was the first to receive the money for Myoga. Unfortunately, some of the leaders of different circles have started misusing the funds. They went and hired a lodge and shared this money. The secretary was given, I think, 3.6 million.
The 21 million was meant to benefit 6 Emyoga associations, which include Bombogo A and B Mechanics Association, Kidoma Mechanics Association, Botole A and B Mechanics Association, and Changwari Mechanic Associations. But only Bombogo A and Kidoma, where the circle treasurer and secretary belong, got a share of the money. During the interrogation, Mugabe denied taking 15.8 million shillings and admitted that he took only 11 million shillings, which was invested in a business. Mugabe requested to get released so that he can go and sell his plot of land and other property to refund the money. About 36 members of credit cooperative societies in Kikube district received certificates from Microfinance Support Center to start accessing over 1 billion shillings wired on their accounts under the Presidential Initiative on Job and Wealth Creation, commonly known as Emyoga.
Now, Kanungu rice farmers and processors yearn government support with improved seeds and market. Farmers say that there is need for improved seeds in order to foster competition with other rice farmers and better prices. We have more details on this story.
The director, Kanungu Rice Farmers Cooperative, Lukundo Joshua, says they have a capacity to produce 200 metric tons of rice per season with support from government.
So when the government gives us rice seedlings, improved seedling, this means the issue of food and nutrition security will be taken care of, and we shall have high production, and at the same time we shall have household incomes increase, because our farmers are not only growing for food consumption, but they are also selling the surplus.
He attributed the drop of market for rice to the partial lockdown during the COVID-19 period, which led many school children to venture into rice growing.
We have farmers as far as Bwambara in Rukunjiri who benefit from our tractor, benefit from our seedling. I want you to look at a scenario where you have planted 53 tons of rice. The production or the output is overwhelming, it is a lot. So this means that if our farmers are not supported, so that we decrease the costs of production, we are going to have a lot of seedlings, but people to take it are very few. But if we can have the government support us through financial institutions, through the Ministry of Agriculture, by giving us subsidized seedlings, the farmers will be supported and helped so that the production capacity increases concurrently with the production.
The price of rice has now dropped to 1,800 shillings a kilo from the original 2,500 shillings.
Now, while many planned protests were cancelled as a mark of respect for the death of the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, there were still, or rather, there's First Grand Symphony telling the arduous stories of the people's fight against COVID-19 was staged on Thursday in National Center for the Performing Arts to mark the first anniversary of Wuhan ending its epidemic-induced lockdown. On April 8, 2020, Wuhan, the worst hit city by the coronavirus, ended its 76-day isolation and returned to normal after overcoming the epidemic. As a piece of the work performed at the opening show of the 7th China Orchestra Festival, the symphony Rise from the Ashes was played by the Wuhan Philharmonic Orchestra. It was composed during the most difficult time of the epidemic fight, reflecting challenges posed by the epidemic, the glory of the fight, and the hard and victory. In addition, the other orchestral music that the audience are familiar with, such as the Ode to the Red Flag and the Passionate Years, were also performed. The 7th China Orchestra Festival will last from Thursday to May 7th.
中国人民在抗击疫情中所体现出来的强大力量。
The Southern African Development Community, SADC, on Thursday held a meeting in Mozambican capital Maputo to discuss ways to tackle the Islamic insurgency plaguing the Southeast African nation. The extraordinary double Troika summit came in the wake of an attack on the key northern towns of Palma last month by Islamic militants in the restive Cabo Delgado province. The meeting, which lasted more than 3 hours, was attended by the presidents of Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, South Africa, Tanzania, and Mozambique. President Filipe Nyusi of Mozambique said that the SADC countries are now faced with a shared goal. The SADC countries agreed to deploy to Mozambique and form a task force to decide the necessary support to crush terrorists linked to the Islamic State militant group. And now in the world of sports, Mbale Heroes has advanced to the Stanbic Uganda Cup round of 16 after ejecting Gaddafi FC 4-2 in the post-match penalties. Having lost the round of 32 first leg tie, Mbale Heroes needed to score to get any tangible results from this game. Scored they did in the 16th minute through talisman Sula Mulunda and held out the score till the referee signaled the end of the match, and thus needing penalties to separate the two sides. In a tense post-match penalty shootout, the home team kept their nerves to advance. In another second leg round of the 32 games played, SC Villa left it late against Ndeja University at the latter's Arena of Visions. Goals by Geoffrey Waswa, Rona Sechiganda, and Emmanuel Waswa were what Villa needed to overturn a 1-0 home loss. Elsewhere, Uganda People's Defense Forces needed a solitary effort against Arua Hills to sneak into the round of 16. Uganda People's Defense Forces lost away leg with 3-2, but are glad for having scored 2 priceless away goals. The other team through the next round is Soltilo Bright Stars that has beaten Paida Black Angels 3-1 at Kavumba Recreation Ground. The draw for the round of 16 is due later this month, and many of those games will be live on UBC TV. Very instinctive keeper right there, I must say. Anyhow, let's take a look at tonight's top stories before we can actually sign out. Tonight, implementation of the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Project deal signed. We featured that. Muslims set to begin Ramadan fasting season. Senior 6 candidates sit their A-level exams tomorrow. And the Myoga funds embezzlers in Hoima netted. I hope this serves as an example. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a lovely bulletin. My name is Wadulo Arnold, Mugalu Mohammed on sign language. Please do remember, if you can and know where you can get your vaccinations for the COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine, then go do that and then get a second jab 8 weeks later. From the team, we must say good night and have yourselves a lovely week.
The existence of public institutions is to primarily provide Ugandans with reliable and accessible services in as far as the nation's affairs and resources are concerned. The institutions that ensure that these services are provided openly and transparently, fighting corruption and any other shortcomings, come under the spotlight. Join Samson Kasumba as he asks the questions that need to be of Lieutenant Colonel Edith Nakalema, Senior Presidential Advisor on Anti-Corruption and the head of the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, Ms. Mariam Wangadia, the Deputy Inspector General of Government, Benson Turamie, the Executive Director of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, PPDA, Sydney Asbo, the Executive Director of the Financial Intelligence Authority, and Canon Dr. Maxwell Powell Ogentho, the Director Technical Services at the Office of the Auditor General. Spotlight UG, Mondays at 10 p.m. live on UBC Television.
Digital tax stamps are applied to goods or their packaging with security features or codes to avoid forging of goods and enable tracking and tracing capabilities.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together. No one should stop you from finishing